So today we are going to be talking about Jack Dempsey, which pretty common species. Everybody knows about them, but honestly, what can they do for hybrids? What can they do for us? As a pure species, they are a little bit longer. Just right off the bat, they do have pearls. Their fin structure is kind of cute. And when I say structure, I mean the pearl structure. I'm not a big fan of the fin. This is kind of nice. Face definitely has a little bit of a beak to it, and then just main thing is they're long and pearly. So if we hop into the website, we go down to Jack Dempsey. We can start checking these out. So Jack Dempsey to predatory. What I've seen with Jack Dempsey into Veja cichlids has been a very weird admixture because you got Jack Dempsey predatory, Jack Dempsey black belt, and then at the bottom you have Jack Dempsey cynogatus. Not cynogatus. Cyno. Yes, Sin. I don't know. I have Cyno on my mind. I'm thinking about Cyno, but Sin. So you have Bree, Sin, and black belt. And Bree, obviously, this is a very, it's a very hybrid. This might be, it might be in breeding dress because of how much black it has on it, but this is rough, especially for Bree Dory, which have usually really nice hybrids. Black belt, bald patch here. This does seem to be some layer of pearling here, possibly going back like this, similar to the lower back pearling like this. The fins are better. I used to hate this mix. I used to be like, oh, this mix is so ugly. Now I'm a little bit older. I honestly don't mind this mix as much. If I was to see this mix, I'd probably want to see it taken into Zahn because black belt. Let's see. Black belt into Zahn is beautiful. So this is how much blue and red kind of pops out from that. And we're already at kind of like a bluish gray tint. Adding the Zahn in there could be really interesting. Carpentis, which, in case you guys don't know what a Carpentis looks like, is different than the Cynogatus. It is the one with the big pearls. So big pearls equals Carpentis, right? So that's the carp. That is what we're looking at. So this hybrid right here and right here are both 50% Carpentis. The pearl structure is very, what would I call this? Organized. The shape's all right. It's definitely got the length of the Jack Dempsey. Some of the face is influenced by the Jack Dempsey. Pearl structure is all over the place, though. There's definitely pearls all over its face, all over its fins, body. This one looks probably like a younger version of this. Now, these are unrelated, these two. But developmentally, I'd probably say this one's probably a little bit smaller than these are, and that this, as it ages, will develop into that. And then we got Jack Dempsey convict, one of the only species that is able to push pearls onto the convict. Still gets that Jack Dempsey length to it. Jack Dempsey length. This was a little bit not nearly as lengthy, but it also has more pearls, which is kind of nice. This one's got the length, low purling. Definitely has the Jack Dempsey shape to it, though. Then you got the Jack Dempsey cynogatus, which the cynogatus are the other species of these are the true Texas. If you're saying Texas cichlid, you have a Carpentis. This is what you're really saying. The Texas cichlid is the cynogatus or cynogutus, whatever you want to call it. Small dot pearls, very fine. That's a Jack Dempsey. That's a Carpentis. That's a Cyno. Cyno are honestly so hard to come by pure these days. And the good ones are even harder. Don't get me wrong, this is an alright Cyno, but it's not an amazing Cyno. Which I'll go into depth later on a Cyno video on why, Cynos kind of suck, but are also great. But here's the Cyno to the Jack Dempsey. Comparatively to the Carpentis, these are big block pearls to the Jack Dempsey equal this format, whereas the small dot pearls to the Jack Dempsey small dot pearls equal a ton. Like this one, I could cover up the face. I want to try to cover the screen up, but I can't. I really enjoy these dotted pearls all over the place. I think they're really nice. This structure obviously is aged. It's filled up to the tall. It's got the height of the Cyanogatus. It's got a little bit of the length of the Jack Dempsey, but the purling is just fantastic. You can see here that it does have that structure that the Carpentis one has, but it's just smaller, finer, and clean. I really, really enjoy that for Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey bringing in that small dots with the Cyanogatus is just really nice. I mean, obviously they're pearly here, and there's some type of pearl structure on the black belt, but just for these two, definitely the cream of the crop for what Jack Dempsey has done in the past, in my opinion. Then we've got Jack Dempsey Firemouth, which if you haven't seen my Firemouth video, go ahead and go watch that. But we do go into this, but this is color receptive. Like it did get some of the color. The shape did push more Jack Dempsey, but you could see the Hericthai, or not the Hericthai, but the Thoricthai Firemouth influence on it. The fins are really nice, and there's obviously a better amount of purling from it because of the Jack Dempsey genetics and not the Firemouth. Now, if you come down, we start having Jack Dempsey Flowerhorn, right? So Jack Dempsey Flowerhorn shows that it is color receptive, which we kind of already know from here. Color receptive, did get a little bit of a nunchal hump in this one. I'm going to guess this was probably a SRD or a low pearled individual used, but shape wise, this is really nice. It is longer than technically a standard Flowerhorn mix that you'd want, but if you're just going off of like free ball, and this is a very interesting mix, especially with how much red's almost past half the body. Fins are red, even the one in the background is red. Then you go down to the next one, you got pink instead of red, which is, whatever. The shape is technically more standard, short. Fin looks maybe a little deformed here, maybe just the water. But it did get some pearl structures, definitely smaller pearls here, smaller dot pearls. It's the Jack Dempsey. Jaguar, Jack Dempsey. So something about Jaguars, there's like 3 to 4 different developmental stages to them. There's the fry, the juvenile, then the like subadult and the adult, right? This one, being the size that it is, looks like it's probably in the juvie stage, which if you compare that to the Firemouth Jaguars, you could see the developmental difference. It does already have a lot of like decent pearl structures, which probably would have ended up being extremely pearly with age. You can see some small dot pearls here that probably would have expanded down. And then this would have ended up being covered up because I can see the small dot here. This would have been really cool to see grown out. It does seem like it's already taken after the Jaguar head. And obviously with a Parachromis, with already having a longer predatory shape mixed to a Jack Dempsey that a predatory shape, it's going to be longer, a little bit easier to mix. Then we've got Jack Dempsey to Red Devil, which if you haven't seen my fader videos, go check that out. Kind of talk about the Amphilophus skins, and that the Jack Dempsey obviously came out gray here. Like, why did it come out gray? Because the Red Devil isn't bringing any color into it, and because they don't have any like a ton of pearl genetics, the pearls also got muted. So you're getting the beak, and you're getting a little bit of the length, and you're getting the colors, and this is what's popping out. And this one looks like it started to go fading. These, not the biggest fan of, but I'm also not the biggest fan of Amphilophus crosses. Jack Dempsey does Thigh Silk. Small dot purling all over the place. Obviously, there's a high pearl to a low to a Jack Dempsey, and these two are actually either the same fish or related. It's been a couple years now since I've originally acquired these photos, but I know they're related, if not the same fish. And you can see as they aged that the pearls increased all over its face, spread out a little bit, and increased more. The height of the fish increased with age, which also the height of this to this increased, as well as the beak coming out increased. But for pearls, honestly, straight off the bat, is not that bad of a mix. The fin structure more likely came from the Thai silk, and that's really, honestly, if this was filled out, would have been impressive. We've got Jack Dempsey SRT. Obviously, this isn't like a super high grade SRT that was used, but you can kind of see what a faded Jack Dempsey hybrid looks like. This one didn't get a ton of pearl in. I'm going to guess that the one used is probably a higher Amphilophus. And why would I say that? Because the Amphilophus caused low purling and low color. And obviously this fader has low purling and low color. Whereas if it was maybe a Palm SRT, it would have been a little bit better. Jack Dempsey to Sin. Both of these are unrelated to different scenarios. You could see that both of them, both start a lot of pearls behind the gill plate. This one has a little bit on the cheek. This one has 1 or 2 on the cheek, but a lot of it is behind the gill plate backwards, and that's where it fills in. And it has these impressive fins, similar to the jaguar fins in some of the mixes we've seen. And then it's got sheets of purling. And the bigger thing I think in here is the color. The shape here, this shape looks beneficial. Like for mixes, this shape is a little bit rougher. Now, obviously, if you compare it to the black belt and the predatory, those shapes are a little bit rougher. Just Jack Dempsey to Veja for now just is really interesting, and how it mixes with shape. But obviously, color-wise, there is something there to be said about its color reception. Jack Dempsey, Texas. Now these ones are just Texas because these ones are wild caught. So these could be F1, F2, F3, F1 to F2, F2 to back to Jack Dempsey. So these are just feral ones, showing some traits. I really enjoy the dot purling from Jack Dempsey. I think that's a stud trait, which very pretty. I'm gonna guess this one's probably like F2 to F3 of natural selection in the wild. Because that's where it was caught. It was in South Florida. And how do we take what Jack Dempsey has, what we've seen, to make something, right? Because Jack Dempsey, obviously, purling, length. We've seen that it does really good with small dot purling. We've seen that it does color recept a little bit. And then lengthwise with Parachromis, it gets along. And then Cynogeddis, it has that very interesting small dot pearls all over the place. Now, what would I do for it? Honestly, this is going to take I would probably make a 3-blood hybrid. So the species I would get is I would definitely get a pure Cyno, because obviously Cyno to Jack Dempsey produces these studs, right? And then the other species I would get is a Parachromis species. And the one I'm going to be suggesting is, I'll show you exactly why I'm suggesting it. I would do Parachromis Freddy, or now Multifaceta, Multifaceta, whatever fasciatus, whatever you want to call it. Parachromis to a multi or Freddy. And why would I do these 3? Now, obviously, we've seen how the first 2 mesh. Why would I add in a Freddy when we haven't seen that mesh? Obviously, we've seen the Jaguar. It's up here. Jaguar is not up there. And the shape was there. The pearl reception was there. The age was not, so we never got to see to reach that final stage. The Cyno and Jack Dempsey, we see that the shape is nice and long. The pearls are all over the body. The fin structures are nice. Like, this is just a clean mix, and this is just to tweak it just a little bit more. Is we're gonna go ahead and hop over to Parachromis, and we'll go to the Freddy, and we're gonna go down. This is what I'm looking for right here. Parachromis Freddy Tex. And you can see that it has this very busy pattern here. And it has full body purling, similar to the Jack Dempsey Texas. And then if I really wanted to, we could talk about that one, but not necessarily as important as the Jack Dempsey example. So, let me go and just copy this. Paste them up beside each other. And just for one more example, we're going to go grab the other Texas. It's more than likely a Cyno heavy mix than a Carpentis, just based off of the pearl structures themselves. And we'll talk about that. So, if I was using Jack Dempsey, I'd probably go for a predatory look, just because they already have that longer body to them, and I think it could be really interesting. And obviously, what I'm trying to do is balance the. Obviously, this one is on a black background, so the colors aren't there. I would want to get the Parachromis Freddy color, because we know that the Jack Dempsey is semi-color receptive, while also increasing the pearls with the cyanogatus and the pearl structure with the frettostilla, right? Um, and how would I go about doing that? Honestly, there's like kind of like two ways about it. I It just depends on how heavy you want it, because there's a mix that you could do that you get heavier Texas, right? If you didn't want like the predatory look, you could go the heavier Texas route. Or if you want I'll give you two routes. There'll be one for like a predatory look, and there'll be the non-predatory look, and it's gonna have just different percentages of uh, what would you call it? Different percentages of a final result, I think. So let's go ahead and make a quick table. We're gonna have the breeding, the F it makes, and the percentages, right? And I'm trying to do this because when I was going back and looking at my charts and stuff, I realized it was kind of like a little strewn out. My thought process might be different than yours, so this makes it a little bit easier to look at it. So I would do Fred X Jack Dempsey, and I would do this is going to be for the predatory one. Jack Dempsey X Tex Sino. Right? Whoa, too far. This is going to be F1, and this is going to be F1. I'm going to call this F1C, and I'm going to call this F1F. And that's just to label it as the Freddy one and the Sino one. Obviously, this is going to be a 50-50 mix, which I think we're doing it 50-50, 50-50. And then I would probably do, if I'm building this as a line, I'd probably do F1F, X, F1F. This is going to give you F2F, which is going to be still 50-50. And then I probably do the Sino to the Jack Dempsey, F1, X. If I do F1, F1, that's going to realign it, and it's going to give you more traits from both the Texas and the Sino to choose from. But if I'm going for more of a predatory look, do I want to lean more into the Jack Dempsey shape versus the Sino shape? And I think that would really depend on the outcome of the F1. But if F1 and F1 can throw out similar outcomes to an F1 backcross to a parental, with possibly even better. So I'm going to say F1 Sino X, F1 Sino, and that gives you the F2 Sino, which again is going to be 50-50. Now, from here, I would probably do F2 Fred X Fred, and this is where we're just going to call this F3 Fred. And this will be 75% Fred and 25% Jack Dempsey. And then I would probably take my F2 Sino mix, 50-50, to my F2 Fred mix, which is going to give us, let's just call this F3, right? F3, and it's combining the two lines. So now we're at 50% Jack Dempsey, 25% Freddy, 25% Sino. I would then take my F3 and X to my other F3F, and this is going to give you F4, and F4 is going to be, what is it, 50? So we're going 50 plus 25 for the Jack Dempsey. It gives you 75% in total. You have to divide it by 2 because all babies inherit half of the genetics. So that gives us 37.5% for Jack Dempsey. It gives us 37.5% for Frettostilla because it's at 70. No, it's higher than that, isn't it? Because we're doing 70. It gives us 50% for Freddy. And I gotta click on that. 12.5% for Sino, which obviously you're like, well, Jackson, that's not really a balanced mix. You're right. what can we do to balance that out? This should be a very predatory look because it is 50% Freddy, and it'd be 37% this and 12.5% that, just to influence it a little bit more. But if we're going for a more balanced look, obviously this is not where we want to lay it at. Which in that case, how can we tweak it without losing everything? And I think what we can do, because 12 is Texas here, this is Texas 50, we can do an F2C to the F4. Which is going to give you F5. And how I'm doing the F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 is just going next to it's the next generation. It's to track your progress on a hybrid line. So we're looking at this. We are looking specifically at this one mixed back to F2C. So 37, we got to do the Jack Dempsey. So 37.5 plus 50 equals 87.5. 87.5 divided by 2 equals 43.5. So we're at 43.5% Jack Dempsey. We are at 25% Freddy. And then we are at, what is it? It's going to be 25 plus 6.25, which is, I think, 31. Which I want to double check. Let's do 25 plus 12.5. No, 25. Just 50 plus 12.5 divided by 2. Yeah, 62.5 divided by 2, 31.25. Exactly. 31.25. Which means this one might need to actually be 0.25 or something stupid. Let me double check. 37 equals 37.5 plus 50 divided by 2. It's 43.75. Did it show that the first time? Was I just being stupid? So this is obviously a more balanced mix. And you're like, whoa, I like my Barochrome is higher than my Cyanogutis in this mix. F5 to F4. 5x F4. You're gonna get 31. Okay, let me just do the parentheses. It's 37.5 plus 43.75 divided by 2. If you got 40.7 ish, where's my ish sign? No, I always use this on text messages. Whatever. There it is. Percent Jack Dempsey. 25 plus 50 for the Freddy is going to be 75 divided by 2 is 37.5. So you're now at 37.5% ish Freddy. And you are then at a 12, which let me go ahead. I just edit here. We're at 12.5 plus 31.25. And that gives us dash 21.9 ish percent Cyanogutis. Obviously, I'm rounding up because I'm not typing all that out. This is a much closer level. The percentage is 20 plus 30 equals 50, plus 40 equals 90, 7 plus 1 equals 8, 9 plus 7. All right, that should be close enough to 100%. So this is right about where it should be. 40% Jack Dempsey, 37.5% Freddy, and 21% Cyanogutis. And this would be a 3-blood that you have worked out your layers and set up to be more predatory in shape. Now, if you wanted to do one where it is more, what would we call it? Docile in shape, not predatory. You could add Veha in there instead of Freddy. But let's just say we're using the same 3 species again, because I got more Jack Dempsey stuff to go over eventually. Let's just say we're doing this, and we get up to this generation. Let's say this generation is the 50-50 stuff, 50-25-25. And it's 25 Jack Dempsey and 25% Freddy. And obviously we have this generation. We could change this out to Sino, or we just delete it because I don't really need it. I don't need this here. What I need is this moved up. So that gives us an F2, yeah. So we're here in this section. Obviously we did Freddy to Jack Dempsey, Sino to Jack Dempsey, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50, and we cross the 50-50 F2s together to give us F3. And F3, I would probably cross it back to F2C. This is going to give us F4, which I'm just going to stretch my legs out a little bit. Which F4 in this mix is going to be 50% Jack Dempsey, because Jack Dempsey's 50-50 on both parents. It then takes Freddy down to 12.5, and then it takes the Cynogutis from 25 to 37.5. And just to level this out, I'd probably do F4 x F4 as well as F4 x F3. And we'll call this one F5, and we'll call this one F5.2, as in version 2, right? Or let me just write V2 because I think people are going to get confused. F5 V2, right? My God. My gosh. So F4 to F4 is going to give us the exact same percentages. So Control C, Control V, adjust the placement of the graph. And then we have F4 to F3 for F5 V2. So this one is where we're going to have to adjust the percentages. Obviously, we're at 50% Jack Dempsey. 12.5 to 25 is, again, I'm losing my mind. 25 plus 12.5 divided by 2 enters 18.75% Freddy. 18.75% Freddy. And then we are at 37 to 25. It's 37.5, so I don't need to delete the whole thing. To 37.5 to 25. Okay, it gives us 31. So we're at 31%. Is it 31.25? I think so. I don't remember. It is. So that is our F5V2. And then, honestly, I'm crossing them together. F5x F5V2 to give us F6. And that should be about 50% Jack Dempsey. Let's go ahead and just do the math here. 37 plus 31.25 equals 34. And then if I copy this and paste it here, and then adjust it for 18.75 and 12.5, we get about 15. So we're at 15. I'm rounding up again. 15, or rounding down in this scenario. 15.6-ish % Freddy, and it is 34.5-ish % Cynogutis. And this should give something with some busy pro pattern, because that's kind of what Jack Dempsey is the best at, it looks like, in the hybrids. This one is more so after a predatory look, with the Freddy being the base for that. And this one is more so after the Texas shape, with the Texas being brought in and realigned multiple times. So that's what you're selecting for, is the Texas shape in that scenario. And selecting for the Texas shape, you'd be wanting to do the best selections you can for F2. So in F1, you want to find the highest Texas shape. Then for F2, you want the highest Texas shape because that's what's going to be your base of your line because it comes back multiple times. For this one, obviously, if you're going for the predatory look for F2C, you probably want the one that leans more Jack Dempsey because that's going to be a little bit easier meshing into the predatory system. So if you guys have any more questions or ideas for Jack Dempsey, let me know. There's a couple. I'm going to go over Jack Dempsey Electric Blue probably in another video, so just stay tuned for that. If you guys have any comments or concerns, comment and I'll let you know. And then hit that subscribe button. It does help me out. But I hope you guys have a great day.